A story a week, the mind's masterpiece, a work of art from heart to heart. Tales of wonder, wonder she inspires. Upon her canvas, worlds are built, hearts are healed, hopes restored, dreams revealed, puzzles solved, faiths take flight, good works are born. A story a week. Sit back and relish this week's story. Beyond our sight.
A quiet road, a gentle call, your hand unseen, yet guiding all. Through every turn, through joy and pain, your mercy met us once again.
If someone had told me I'd one day become your wife, I wouldn't have believed them. Gisie murmured, nestled in her husband's arms. Why not? Mitero asked, tilting his head to plant a kiss on her cheek. Because the circumstances that brought us together, they were so unlikely. If I had taken a different path, we might never have met. Mitero chuckled, tightening his hold around her. And what other path could you have possibly taken? The one that didn't lead to me? His tone was teasing, but his eyes searched hers for a response. Gisie pulled back slightly, just enough to meet his gaze. You know how, as a young girl, you imagine what you will become? I always pictured myself as a minister of God, operating particularly in the prophetic. That was the dream I had, a vision of serving in his vineyard. Intrigued, Mitero furrowed his brow and asked, "That was your dream? How did you know that?" Gisie straightened and sat upright, her demeanor shifting as though she was about to share a story she had long kept hidden. Growing up, men and women of God would tell my parents that I had a calling. They said I was destined to work in God's vineyard, though I didn't understand what that meant at the time. Then, in my 20s, complete strangers at different times would tell me they saw an Esther, a Naomi, or an Elijah in me. She paused, her gaze meeting his. And of course, there were the prophecies after our marriage. 2 prophets we didn't even know, both affirming the Elijah anointing upon my life. You remember? Mitero's eyes softened as his memory stared. I remember those words clearly. They were powerful. Yeah, they were, she agreed, a faint smile playing on her lips. And then there were the dreams, visions of myself in a prophetic robe, declaring the word of the Lord. You've had one yourself, I remember. That was very revealing. Those moments were so vivid, so real. If I had pursued that path fully, I wonder where it would have led me. And yet, here I am. Sometimes I can't help but wonder why those prophecies didn't unfold exactly as they were spoken. Mitero took her hand, his thumb brushing gently over her skin. Maybe they did, just not in the way you expected. The multiple blinks in her eyes begged for an explanation. You may not be standing behind a pulpit or wearing a literal prophetic robe, but that doesn't mean you're not fulfilling those prophecies, he explained. Think about it. You carry the spirit of prophecy in everything you do, whether as a journalist, a wife, a mother, or a friend. The advice you give, the warnings you share, the encouragement you offer, all of it is laced with divine insight. You've changed lives, Gisie, in ways you may never fully realize. Gisie listened intently as his words began to bridge the gap between her dreams and her reality. Take Esther, for example, Mitero continued. She didn't just save her people because she was queen. She did so because she cared. That care gave her boldness and faithfulness. It made her willing to risk everything as she stepped into the unknown for the sake of others. I see that same diligence in you. It's in the way you've nurtured our children, the compassion you show to everyone around you, and the way you pour yourself into your work. That diligence, it's unmistakably Esther-like. Every little detail mattered to Esther. Her timing, her approach, her courage, and it does in you too. You may not wear a crown, but your intentionality shines through in how you listen and how you give yourself so completely to the people and tasks around you. Even back when we were newlyweds, I noticed it. Gisie raised her eyebrows, her lips curling into a half-anxious smile. What do you mean? Mitero chuckled softly, his eyes brightened with the light of a cherished memory. Do you remember the time shortly after we got married when I mispronounced the word awesome as awesome? Gisie's laughter rang out like chiming bells, filling the room. Oh, I remember that. You were so confident about it too. And don't forget the time you tried to use the word ubiquitous, but completely missed the mark. They both laughed, Mitero shaking his head in surrender. And you didn't let it slide. You corrected me so gently. That's what I mean. You care even about the tiniest details. I'm proud to say that my English phonetics have improved thanks to you. He paused, his tone softening. It's that same diligence, that same attentiveness that made Esther brave enough to approach the king when no one else dared. It's the kind of care that makes people trust you, makes them feel seen and valued. Gisie's laughter softened into a warm smile as she rested her head against his shoulder. I never thought of it that way, she murmured. Mitero's hand combed through her braids as he continued. And then there is Elijah. He wasn't just a prophet because he called down fire from heaven. His passion for God and for truth defined him. That same passion burns in you. I saw it from the moment I met you, the way you pursued justice and truth as a journalist, unafraid to confront what needed confronting. It's a passion that hasn't dimmed even after all these years. Gisie's smile widened as memories began to float back. She could still picture herself as a university intern, tirelessly working on an investigative piece about a neighborhood spring water threatened by contamination. The article had gained unexpected attention, including from Mitero, who had been living in Europe at the time. I'll never forget that article of yours, which made waves, Mitero said, as though reading her thoughts. It was a simple story about water contamination, but it sparked something in me. I wondered how a city with a national water corporation could fail its people so badly. Your article wasn't just a report, it was a call to action. That call to action brought you to me, Gisie said, her voice laced with wonder. Exactly. See something else about Elijah. He stood firm even when the odds were against him, even when it meant standing alone. I saw that passion through your work long before I ever heard about those prophecies of you. It's in the fire you bring to your work, the way you pour yourself into uncovering truth and standing up for what's right. That fire drew me to you. Elijah called down fire that burned away the veil of pretense. Your work ignited a fire that began to burn through the veil of corruption in the city. Marveling, Gisie smiled warmly. Ah, you really think all of that about me? She whispered, her heart swelling as he wove her essence into the stories of such remarkable figures. I don't just think it, Mitero said, his voice firm yet tender. I know it. You are my Esther, strong, selfless, and wise. And my Elijah, passionate, fearless, and unwavering. Those weren't just prophecies about who you could be. They are the reality of who you are. Oh, you make it sound so profound, she teased lightly, her voice soft with emotion. It is profound, he pressed on. It was your diligence and passion as a journalist that captivated me in the first place, remember? And it is those same qualities that made me fall in love with you. They both fell silent, their minds lingering on the serendipity that had brought them together. Outside the hotel room, the night hummed with life, but inside it was just the two of them, two souls reflecting on the journey that had shaped their love. Tucked in each other's arms, she felt seen and cherished. Mitero's words reassured her that she had not taken the wrong path. Having studied environmental waste management in Europe, Mitero had opened a company specializing in waste management. When Gisie's article about the water sanitation issues in the neighborhood reached his eyes, he became deeply concerned. Gisie's investigation had been sparked by a casual conversation over roasted fish with a close friend, a medical doctor, who shared troubling statistics: a significant rise in typhoid and intestinal diseases, mostly affecting the residents from one particular neighborhood. The doctor suggested that contaminated water or food washed in it could be the culprit. Gisie's curiosity ignited, and she dove headfirst into investigating the water springs that served the area. What she uncovered was alarming. Pollution stemming from a dangerously low water table, waste from nearby homes, particularly those with peaks and poorly managed pit toilets, was seeping into the springs. Worse yet, the government-installed taps meant to provide safe water were dry, forcing residents to rely on these contaminated sources. Despite repeated complaints, municipal authorities had done nothing. Fueled by a sense of injustice and a journalist's resolve, Gisie exposed the city council's neglect in a powerful article that resonated beyond the city borders. It was this very article that reached Mitero in Europe. Struck by the injustice Gisie uncovered and moved by her determination, Mitero reached out to collaborate on further investigations. That initial partnership blossomed into something much deeper, setting the foundation for a love that neither of them had expected. Resting on Mitero's chest, Gisie reflected on the unexpected twist in her life. She had once believed that her calling would fit neatly into a box, perhaps as a full-time minister in a church with clear lines between the sacred and the secular. But now she understood that God's calling was woven into everything: the work they did, the relationships they built, and the unexpected ways they served others. Mitero's eyes searched hers, tender and unwavering. "What are you thinking?" Gisie smiled softly, her voice reflective. "I've been thinking about how I had so many ideas about how God's plan should unfold, and how it's turned out so beautifully different than I imagined. Our partnership, this life we've built, is a part of that plan. The way we've worked side by side, supported each other, it's been ministry in itself." Mitero smiled, his words carrying deep affection. "You are my Esther. You are my Elijah. Together, we are walking the path God intended for us all along. It's just not the path we thought it would be, but it's all part of His grand plan." Gisie's eyes softened, and she took his hands in hers. "I used to think my calling was meant to look one way, like walking alongside a cassock-clad pastor whose role would sync perfectly with mine as we served God's flock together. But now I realize that you are that minister in disguise. You don't need a cassock to play that role." Her voice grew even softer. "Thank you, Mitero, for the past 20 years, for your love, your faith, and the way you've cared for our family while I've been away on the job. It amazes me that on this day, as we celebrate our love, we've had such a deep conversation centered on the selflessness we've shown to each other. I see now, more than ever, how we've walked out His plan together in ways we never expected. It's a reflection of God's hand in our lives." Mitero gently cupped her face, gazing into her eyes, and said, "I thank God every day that you are my wife. You captured my heart, not with titles, but with an Esther's courage and Elijah's flame. I love our union, the fruit it's born, and the reverence it gives to the Creator.
A quiet road, a gentle call, your hand unseen, yet guiding all. Through every turn, through joy and pain, your mercy met us once again. In every step, your light was near.
With deliberate care, Mitero reached into the bedside drawer and retrieved a small box, opening it to reveal a sparkling diamond ring. This, he said softly, is to renew our vows. Gisie's eyes filled with tears as he slid the ring onto her finger. She embraced him tightly, whispering, "I love you, Mitero," her voice trembling with emotion. "I love you more than words can say," Mitero replied, his voice equally heartfelt.
Your love sustained, your hand embraced, our story held by endless grace.
A quiet road, a gentle call, your hand unseen, yet guiding all. Through every turn, through joy and pain, your mercy met us once again. In every step.
20 years of marriage, 20 years of love and unwavering support. That was why they were here on this journey together, to celebrate, to recalibrate, and to prune away the weakened leaves from the tree of their love, making space for new ones to grow. Rising from their seats, they embraced, swaying gently to an unspoken rhythm, left and then right. An intimate dance witnessed only by the walls of the room. If walls could speak, this would be the moment. They would serenade the atmosphere with a soft love song.
You drew us here, your love sustained, your hand embraced, our story held by endless grace.
We walked through valleys, climbed unknown heights, your truth our anchor, our guiding light. Through winding paths, your voice was clear, a faithful God who calmed our fear. In every step, your light was near. Through doubt and faith, you drew us here. Your love sustained, your hand embraced, our story held by endless grace.
What seemed like chances were plans from above, each moment stitched by your unending love. Through struggles, your promises shone.